You're watching the Community MMA.
What up, this your boy Chris Cross, checking in. And I'm glad to bring the show to you today because there's a lot to talk about, man. Some breaking news last night. And it's crazy, I had a whole show planned. And then they got to break some news at midnight on the East Coast here. And the whole show is upside down now, but for the better. Because you got 3 big fights announced, but really 2 we care about. I mean, as a community, just to be honest. And it's the light heavyweight title fight at UFC 295. And then the welterweight title fight at UFC 296. And without looking, I'm pretty sure this is in December and January. So for the light heavyweight, you got Jiri versus Alex Pereira. Jiri Prochazka makes a return against Alex Pereira. And then in the welterweight, it's like we just been waiting on it. Leon versus Colby. Leon Edwards versus Colby Covington. And both of these fights are going to be ridiculous. I mean, I literally cannot wait to watch both of these fights. Because when you get right down to it, these guys are up there on the do list, make no mistake about it. Jiri's number 4. And basically you can color in all those names in the top 5. So it's going to be a good finish to the year and the start of next year. Because then you got number 8 Colby Covington versus number 10 Leon Edwards. And the only reason they're 8 and 10 is because I'm just waiting for this fight to play out. Both of those guys are top 5 caliber guys. So one of those guys is going into the top 5. And the loser of Makhachev versus Oliveira is going to fall hard on the due list. Probably down to 8, 9, or 10. Colby was number 3 or 4 for a while, but it just really came down to the fact that he wasn't fighting. I mean, eventually he got a slide. I mean, McGregor was number 1, number 2 for a long time, but he's never fighting. So you got problems there. How do you keep a guy up on the due list if they're not fighting? So that's how that goes. So these next few months are going to tell me a lot and really start to solidify my top fighters. Hamza, John Jones, all these guys are fighting, man. Islam and Oliveira. I mean, it's just going to be ridiculous these next few months. So we're going to get into these 2 fights, and there's another big topic with the UFC-WWE Merger we got to get into. So stay tuned for that. But let's first start at UFC 295. With Jiri Prochazka versus Alex Pereira. Here's the breakdown and prediction. In the light heavyweight division, for the light heavyweight division title, you got the return of Jiri Prochazka. He comes in at 29-3, taking on Alex Pereira, who comes in at 8-2. And this is for the vacant belt. Right? Just a quick recap. Jiri Prochazka had the belt. He relinquished it. Jamal Hill got it. He also vacated the belt. And now Pereira and Prochazka are going to fight for the vacant belt. Now Jiri, believe it or not, 1 inch shorter than Alex Pereira at 6'3". He's 30. Pereira, 36 years old. Jiri has a 1 inch reach advantage, 80-79. Both guys stand right-handed. Jiri, more active, 5.8 significant strikes per minute versus 5.1 for Pereira. But that could be tested here because Pereira is going to continue to stalk Jiri all over the octagon, continue pressing forward, and we'll see if Jiri can keep up the pace with that going on. And neither guy really wants the fight to go to the ground. Both guys are going to want to keep this fight standing. Now, as we dig a little bit deeper, Jiri's 68% takedown defense. He's coming off a win over Glover Teixeira where he submitted him by rear in the 5th round. Led 120-111 in significant strikes, but he gave up 5 takedowns. So we'll Pereira be looking at that. He also beat Dominic Reyes and Volkan Oezdemir. On the other hand, Alex Pereira has a 70% takedown defense. And yes, he's new to the UFC, but he actually has more UFC fights than Jiri. He's got 6 of them now, and he's 5-1. Most recently beating Jan Blachowicz by split decision. He lost to Adesanya and beat Adesanya. So he's 1-1 against him. That's a middleweight. Everything prior to was middleweight, right? Sean Strickland win, Bruno Silva, Andreas Michailidis. So the Jan Blachowicz win is the only thing we got to go off of. And he led 70-52 in significant strikes, gave up 3 takedowns. So both of these guys give up takedowns, but they want to stand and strike. And you see, even for a guy like Jan Blachowicz, the numbers come way down against Pereira. That's going to be the whole question mark of this fight is, can Jiri keep up the pace? When you ask yourself how this fight's going to play out, can Jiri keep up the pace that he's used to or not? And guys like Pereira, just like Sean Strickland too, can cause problems with those numbers, which we heavily rely on. But you also got to look at the fact that it's a different pace from Pereira. He's going to have that lead leg up. He's going to keep you off balance. He's going to continue to press forward, and that's going to create problems. But listen, we got Jiri Prochazka on the do list, even though he's been injured, for a reason. Right? He's up there in the top 10 for a reason. Because he's a bad dude. And I don't care about the injury. I don't care about none of that. This guy's coming back for what is rightfully his. He's not going to let Alex Pereira gain the belt here. So I like Jiri Prochazka just on sheer heart. Forget the numbers, right? He's going to find a way to win this thing, and I think he's going to get the finish, to be honest with you, for his 30th professional win. So forget the numbers in this one. Jiri gets the finish. He moves to 30-3. Pereira falls to just 8-3 here in the light heavyweight division for the strap at UFC 295. Yeah, I mean, was there any question? Of course, I'm going with Jiri. I don't care about the injury. He's had a year to recover. He'll be fine. And Alex Pereira is a bad dude, especially at light heavyweight. This is not going to be an easy fight. But he hasn't seen the likes of Jiri. I mean, Jiri is a whole different animal. Adesanya starting to slide a little bit and still KO'd Alex Pereira. Jiri Prochazka is going to bring a whole different level of fighting to this thing. But the only question mark is the injury. There's no question about it. That's the only question mark of the fight. If Jiri is Jiri, he wins this fight, no problem. And when I say no problem, it's going to be a tough fight. But he still wins it, no problem. You dig? Now, moving on. UFC 296, the main event. Welterweight division title on the line. Here's a prediction and breakdown for Leon Edwards versus Colby Covington. In the welterweight division for the welterweight division title, this is the fight we've been waiting on. Leon Edwards comes in at 21-3. He takes on Colby Covington, who comes in at 17-3. So we finally know that this title fight is going down. And I'm here to tell you this is Colby's best chance to take the title. Even in the fights against Usman, he's got a better chance in this one. But does that mean he's going to win? Let's get into it. Colby, the contender, is 3 inches shorter at 5'11". He's 35 years old. Leon Edwards, 32. Covington's given up 2 inches in reach. Edwards fights southpaw. Covington fights right-handed. Colby lands 4.1 significant strikes per minute to 2.8 for Edwards. And here's where things get interesting. Colby also leads in the takedown game. He has 4 over the course of 3 rounds on average, so that's more than 1 per round. Leon Edwards is lucky to get 1 every other round. So how does Leon win? He changes your pace when he fights against you. You can't maintain the same pace. He brings your numbers way down. Long story short. Okay, and he did this against Usman, holding him to just 87 significant strikes in the last fight, majority decision win. And the one before that, he was getting beat in the numbers. 5 takedowns to 1, 83-55 in significant strikes. He was trailing. And if you combine both fights, they're basically even in significant strikes, and he trailed 9-1 in takedowns and still found a way to win both. And that's a tough part of Leon Edwards, is he finds ways to win. He beat Nate Diaz by decision. No contest against Bilal. And before that, he ran off a bunch of wins. I mean, this guy hasn't lost since 2015. So think about trying to predict against him. Colby Covington, 72% takedown defense. Coming off a win against Jorge Masvidal. Lost to Usman, beat Woodley, lost to Usman. So despite this guy getting older, he is well rested. By no means is a tired fighter. He's only fought, this will be He's only fought 3 times in the last 3 years. Literally. He fought Woodley September 19, 2020. By the time he gets in the octagon, it'll be 3 years and about 3 or 4 months later. And he's only had 3 fights. Really 2 if you don't count the Woodley, right? So he's 2-2 in his last 4, losing both to Usman, beating Masvidal, and Tyron Woodley. And with what Leon Edwards has done, how do you go against Leon Edwards? Well, it's real simple. Colby is going to dominate in activity. Leon Edwards can't help to slow the fight down by landing takedowns because Colby's really good at that. He's going to stifle Leon Edwards even better than Usman did. Usman had the 9 takedowns, but Colby's going to ride him. He's going to get him up against the fence. He's going to clinch him up. He's going to grind this thing out. Colby in this fight is going to be like a football team that gets an early 14-0 lead and just begins to run the ball and chew up the clock. And next thing you know, there's 2 minutes left in the 4th quarter, and you can't get the ball from them. And you're like, what happened to this game? Well, they just drained it, played ball control. That's what Colby's going to do in this fight. He's going to drain the clock. He's going to get an early lead in the first 2 rounds. Then by the 3rd, he's going to start to clinch, and he's going to ride this thing out, and he's going to win 3 out of 5 rounds. To me, it's real simple for Colby. I think Colby wins this fight in that regard. The numbers aren't really going to matter. It's just he's going to control the heck out of this fight, whether it's takedowns or in the clinch, to get the belt. He'll move to 18-3, in my opinion. Leon Edwards' reign will be over, and Colby Covington will be the new welterweight champion here at UFC 296. Yeah, and people are going to flip out when Colby Covington wins the belt. People are going to flip out because it's long overdue. Colby should already be the champion. I think he won the last Usman fight. Pull up that video. I said it right away. 3-2 Colby in that fight. He ended up getting the loss. And then Usman falls to Edwards twice. Well, now Colby's going to prove himself, and he's going to get the strap. It's just that simple. And believe me, we're going to be talking about this. I mean, the next 3 pay-per-view events are just ridiculous. So we're going to be talking about this fight, and I'll continue to explain to you in more and more detail as time gets closer as to why Colby is going to dominate this fight. I'm going to double, triple, and further than that down. I'm going to double down and triple down on this prediction. Please believe it. Now, the UFC-WWE merger is going to have major impact on sports marketing. And really commercials and media and how the future of sports is going to play out. All of these things are on the table. Because right now, the advantage between these two is overwhelming because it's a full year sport. WWE, that's entertainment. And UFC as a sport, sports business and entertainment is year round. No other sports year round. Baseball's pretty close. Basketball's pretty close. But the problem that's brewing right now for sports is cable TV is crashing. Right? Streaming is taking over. And you don't really know on any given night where your sports team is going to play. So if I'm a Miami Heat fan, where do I go to watch the game on any given night? Is it going to be on this streaming device, that streaming device? Is it going to be on TV? Well, I can't have all those. So someone's getting left out. And as more people leave cable, the price goes up until the market crashes. That's just the way it goes. But the UFC, doing a deal with ESPN, I know where to go whenever I'm watching UFC. I know right where to go to watch it. It's on the same platform all the time. And maybe once a month you got to do the pay-per-view or whatever, but it's still in the same place. And I didn't really understand too much, or the understanding of how regional fan base is so important to a sports team and how the rights are sold, and that's how players' contracts are paid a lot of times. And you see what happened to the San Diego Padres, where their regional affiliate or whoever was holding their games ended up not being able to pay the, what was it, the digital rights deal? And please fact check me on this because I'm probably making some mistakes in terms of the wording. But the bottom line is they couldn't pay the Padres, and the MLB had to step in, or else these players' contracts won't be paid. I mean, it's hard to believe that that's the way it is. I mean, that's how quickly a whole franchise can go under. And with the collapse of cable TV, you got a major problem brewing in sports. But it won't be a problem for UFC and WWE, who hopefully they sign with ESPN, because ESPN has done a phenomenal job. It's obviously the glue to their fan base on the ESPN Plus package, because you know it's there every week. Then they can add in other things. They got golf. I think they got hockey. They're starting to add in some college football games, not the big ones, but it'll get there. And you know, right now it's still big. I mean, that's what's holding cable TV together is the college football playoffs and NBA playoffs and all these things. You got to have cable to watch, which a lot of people are getting it underground anyway. Let's just be real. But you got to have cable TV to watch if you're the average fan. And eventually that market's going to collapse. And then where are all these games going to go? How many will ESPN gobble up? UFC, WWE's got to be a first priority for ESPN Plus. I mean, it has to be. Because if they lock in this for another 5 to 10 years, then they can start picking off other sports franchises who are going to want their fan base to know where to go to watch games. Because right now, on any given, if you're a Yankees fan, where do you go to watch tonight's game? And then tomorrow night's game. It's in 2 different places, I guarantee it. It's on Apple one night, and it's on cable TV the next, and then the following night it's on a different app. You just don't, it's getting to the point where the market is already crashing. It's just a matter of time. As soon as the NFL, which is already there really, and college football start going to apps, it's over. It's a wrap. And it's going to be a quick crash for cable TV, which is really just trying to hold on. And a lot of things already went to streaming anyway. So when the crash comes, it's just going to be, a quick turnover and it's going to be the Wild West for a year or two. But eventually it'll all sort itself out and it'll be good for us. Because right now it's very tough to watch your team play. If you're an NFL fan, NBA fan, MLB fan, you don't necessarily want to buy the whole package for all teams. You just want your team, which I know you can get those too. But in the NFL, you got to buy the whole package, I believe. I don't think you can just get your team. I could be wrong about that. But, this is the way it's heading. All these sports are going to streaming. And the UFC-WWE merger is going to pave the way forward. And the UFC is always out in front over the last 5 to 10 years in terms of where sports is going. It's like the UFC already knows the future. And everyone else is just trying to get caught up. And I love it. Because that's going to keep UFC at the top for a long time. That'll do it for today's show, man. I had to get to that. Had to get that off my chest. Big deal for sports marketing and all the other areas. Commercials, all that. Sports media, really. But for now, it's your boy Chris Cross. Hope you have a great day and God bless.